I want the grammar to be classical. I want the story to be very logical and clear, because I always, in the short story or the novel, I always have a message that I want to convey, and I want that to come out really strongly. And I want the ending to be a twist. I want the ending to be a surprise. So I don't find it therapeutic. No, I don't.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. It's been a while that I had more than one person to talk to, so I'm going to have to get organized here today, and I'm very, very looking forward to this recording. I'm talking to three people, three quite fascinating people, because I've been stalking them now on the internet for a while and trying to find out who they are. I have met two of them in person, and they've done something really fascinating. The three people, they wrote a book together. I wrote a book on my own and found it very hard. And I'm really curious how hard it is to write a book, three people together. So welcome to Most Memorable Journeys. Mary Catherine, Darius and Marija. I should have mentioned the lady before, but Mary Catherine, Marija and Darius.
Hello.
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 So the two of you are in Vilnius in Lithuania, and one of you is in Dublin, Ireland. But if I remember well from all the stuff I read, the two ladies met in Paris. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, we met in Paris.
And
Actually, we all three met in Paris.
did you? But so explain, how did the writing come about then?
Well, we had been friends for a very long time before the writing happened. So very, very briefly, Marija and I were sent by our governments to do a government training program in Paris for a year. And Darius was also working in Paris at the same time, obviously. So we all met and were very friendly there, and continued our friendship after going back home. But it was, I don't know, 6 years ago that we came up with the idea of the book. And I really have to say this was, I think we have to say this was Darius's grand project, because he conceived the idea of the plot. And this was the engine that drove the book forward.
So this is why I thought that because I read somewhere that you were doing this government program. That's why I thought that it was just the two of you. But Darius was in Paris as well. What were you doing in Paris then, Darius?
Actually, I was working on my PhD. I'm a physicist, and I was doing my experimental work for my PhD in the very known center of nuclear energy close to Paris. So that was the reason I was there.
I understand. Now, I have to admit that I haven't managed to finish the book, because I only received it about a month ago, and I've been all over the place. But from what I understand, it's a novel in a way, but it's also a tiny bit of self-help. Was there I want to ask Marija that. Was there did you have problems in your marriage that you wanted to write a self-help book?
We are married, over almost 30 years. And of course, during our marriage happened many things. And I think that every couple who is married for many years has very good moments and difficult moments, and very happy days and very sad days. And so we passed different stages in our marriage. But we think that we found some ways how to deal with this problem when you have the problem. And we really wanted to share something what we discovered for ourselves, for our marriage, and for everybody, for me and for Darius, what we discovered. And this was the main idea when we started to think about a book. It's not that the book will help us to solve the problems, but we already managed to do a lot of things. Of course, you never do for always. It happens. It continues. It's work in progress.
Oh, I agree. We are all a work in progress. And I remember that we were actually talking about that when we had a coffee here in Cyprus, because
Yes.
I've also been married for 30 years and I should probably write a book about that as well, because I've had a lot of good and bad times, like everybody who is in a relationship. Now, Mary Catherine, you are a creative writer. Did you write any books before this book?
I wrote a book that was required. I have to say I'm a human rights lawyer. That's how Maria and I trained together. She's also a lawyer, of course. But yes, I'm a creative writer. I did a master's in creative writing in Trinity College in Dublin, and I wrote a book called Appointment in Dakar that was part of my thesis. So the challenge in Ireland, because Ireland is one of the world centers of literature and writing, the challenge is to find an agent who will agree to publish your book and take the risk of that. So this book remains on the shelves of Trinity College and only on the shelves of Trinity. But it's the story of a young girl and a young Irish girl who goes out to Senegal to make her life and falls in love, and all the challenges she has culturally in that relationship and in her life.
Wow. Now, that's a very interesting combination as well. I mean, being a human rights lawyer and creative writing, it's kind of what came first? Did you do your law degree and then you felt like you wanted to do a creative writer's degree, or did you do it at the same time?
Well, to be honest, my mother entered one of my poems in a poetry competition when I was 7. And this was with adults, and they gave me an honorable mention. So that's when the writing started. We were at home, we were writing poetry, and we were writing short stories, my sisters and I, and reading them to each other. So we were writing from a very young age. Darius, it was the same in Darius's family. So and he had often thought of that as well. And Maria was always interested in psychology. So the law came as a professional life, but the creative writing was always happening after work on the weekends. And so, yeah, it never stopped. It kept going. I love the short story form as well.
Do you find writing therapeutic?
No, I find it very hard work.
You find it stressful?
I don't, because I'm a perfectionist when I write. I want the grammar to be classical. I want the story to be very logical and clear, because I always, in the short story or the novel, I always have a message that I want to convey, and I want that to come out really strongly. And I want the ending to be a twist. I want the ending to be a surprise. So I don't find it therapeutic. No, I don't.
Fair enough. Because I know lots of people who do journaling and write off the worries of their chest. So maybe I thought you feel the same, but that's totally fine. Now, Darius, you are a physicist, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that there is a book in all of us. Well, that's what people say. We all have a book inside of us. But did you ever think that the book inside of you would be a novel instead of like the thesis of a physicist? How did it start? How was the idea born?
First of all, the literature, poetry in our family was something what I experienced from very early years. So we would sit somewhere in, let's say, dark winter nights in Lithuania. It's more dark than in Cyprus, by the way. And
I know what you're talking about. I'm from Switzerland.
Great. So we would compose some small poems, some of them silly, some of them very, how to say, makes you laugh. And then in the school, I started to get interested in mathematics, physics, and finally I've chosen the profession of physicist, graded university. And you just said, is it healing, the writing? I would say anything you do with a passion heals you some way, because physicists, mathematicians, they solve problems, they write equations, they write the programs, and you have the same sense of satisfaction, the same sense of fulfillment. Either you write a good equation, solve a problem, or you write a poem, or write a chapter that you feel somehow fulfilled and total. And so it is not that I discovered writing and literature from nothing, but at the one point, I started to understand that the sciences and literature are two different things, but no one is better from the other. They're just different level of deepness, different levels of description. If the sciences are very descriptive, very precise, you would not change a comma, everything would change. So in the literature, they are less precise, it's difficult to understand, but it's different. They're deep, kind of deep. So that was this perception that maybe pushed also me to start writing and to read more literature. And the idea, as Maria said, came from we had some sentiment that we understand something in a world of couples, and we would like to share. But well, none of us are psychologist or someone has degree who has power, competence to write an article and to say here we have magic formula which helps. So somehow we borrowed this idea deep inside, but at one point, sometimes you have some insight solution. Wow, but you can write something, and nobody would say that it's something that you can't do. So everybody can write. So that was maybe this as a push to start writing.
But you needed Mary Catherine on board. How did you present the idea to her?
Oh, that was very interesting. So at the beginning, the idea was let's write a book and do it in English. And let's have Mary Catherine on board. And then they first announced this idea to Mary Catherine. I remember we went to Dublin and we went to Cartoon House. It's a very renowned hotel in Maynooth, very close to Dublin. And they started to talk about it. And I think at the beginning, Mary Catherine thought that they are joking. Because to write a literature in English in Ireland, so that's a bit of challenge. And the real work started when they sent a first chapter, actually. Mm-hmm. And somehow this first chapter, these first phrases, sentences started to motivate Mary Catherine. And from this moment, they started real work and enjoyable journey of three of us.
So, Maria, you were writing with Darius, or who wrote? I mean, I imagine you two sitting next to each other, and one of you is typing and the other one is saying things, or the other way around. How did that work? I could never write the book with my husband. We would kill each other.
You should try.
Maybe.
You see, it was really very interesting because sometimes we wrote separately. Let's say Darius wrote one chapter, me another, was responsible for this, for ideas, for writing, and we wrote separately. But some chapters we wrote together, sentence by sentence. And it was really sometimes that we wrote all three together, sentence by sentence. You can imagine, but this happened. Yes, when you know what you want to write and you have already some framework, it's not so difficult, but of course, it's very strange. It's a strange feeling, but it's possible. It's possible. We never thought that it's not impossible. And maybe because of that, we started to do it. Because otherwise, if somebody tells, oh, no, it's not possible, we never would start it to try to make it.
And if I can interject shortly, mm-hmm. So it reminds me a bit of the theater of improvisation, if you know what I mean. So we attended this in Brussels for some time in Maria. So you don't have a scenario, you have a situation, and you need to improvise, take a role. So it reminds me a little bit. And so no matter what text comes to you, the way you write, you try to improvise and include it in the whole project. And it used to be the situations where, for example, we worked according to the established plan, as Maria told, and we would receive sometimes some chapters from Maria Catherine, and we said, okay, how can we include? At the beginning, it was said, no, it's impossible. It's not that they asked for. But after the second look, you see that it slides into the whole text incredibly well, very elegant way. So it changes your initial seeing. So even they had a plot, we had a plan, but we didn't know the way it would flow, this book. And it like a river, you cannot control it, but it flowed very elegantly. And all those pieces were created, were somehow included in different place as expected, but I think it went very well.
Well, you finished it, and it's a real book, and it's for sale, and it's called The Magical Journey of John and Adele. Now, Mary Catherine, who are John and Adele? Are they fiction?
I was assuring everyone I knew that they were fiction because every married couple I knew were asking me, "Is it us?" I said, no, they're fiction. And writers often say that their characters take on a life of their own, and that's what happened to us, because these people are real for us, and they took on their own lives, and they began to run ahead of us. So we were following them.
Amazing. Now, for somebody who is listening to this podcast who hasn't read anything about the book, if you could just give a very, very small summary, what is it about? Then people can go and, go on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, isn't it?
It's available on Amazon. It's available on many, many book sites, but Amazon is probably the best known international site. It is the story. It can be read on two levels. The first level is a very simple level. It can be read just very simply as the story of a couple that get to a point after more than 25 years of marriage that they have to address their difficulties, because otherwise they're both very unhappy, and they may need to go their separate ways. They decide to go on holiday. They run out of petrol. They're caught in an unknown area they don't know, and they suddenly meet three benevolent strangers who say to them, "Yes, we've seen that you have these difficulties. Can we help you? And this is what we propose." That is one level. The second level is it's a book of magical realism. And magical realism is a genre within literature, which I'm sure you know, Elizabeth. That means that everything in life is normal, except for one aspect of life that can't be explained, but that exerts its power on characters and moves them through a journey of challenges. Because almost every novel, if it's a good one that we come across, is characters experiencing a challenge and having to deal with it. And that's why we read it, because we're very interested to know, well, how did they deal with this situation? And maybe it will change how I deal with the situation. So it is not only for married or people in a life partnership. It's also a story of self-realization in life. Life is short, and it should be enjoyed, but we should also all reach our potential. So the idea is that we all find what we enjoy, what we're good at, and move forward with that in our lives with the support of whoever we're in our partnership with, because in a good partnership, the other partner is saying, yes, I can see you're very good at that. I'll help you to do that. That's important to you. And you will do the same for me. That's really, really the idea.
That's very beautiful. And I totally understand what you are saying. And I think, some things may get lost, not just in a couple, but in yourself, that you look after yourself, you take responsibility for your decisions, you maybe start blaming other people for what goes wrong. That can be in a single person, or it can be in a relationship as well. So you're addressing life, really real life situations.
A lot of people told us, Elizabeth, quite seriously, that the conversations in the book, there's a lot of dialogue between the couple. And a lot of people told us that the dialogues were so realistic that they could see their own life inside the dialogue. That was very interesting for us.
Yeah, I could imagine, totally. Now, for the people who are listening to us, the book is called The Magical Journey of John and Adele, and it's written by Ancius M. which is a combination of the three names of the authors, isn't it, Marija?
Yes, this is combination, and this is like a pen name. Ancius is a family name of Darius, and me, I am Ancius, and Mary Catherine is Murray. So Ancius and M. In the middle is me, Marija, and Murray is a surname of Mary Catherine. So it's because it was not possible to make it for three names, full names. It would be very difficult to remember and very difficult to pronounce. And so that's why we decided to make it like this.
So Marija is like a glue who holds us all together.
It's cool, because I was going to say exactly that. I was going to say, even though it's only an M, but she is the most important part. Now, let's move away a little bit from the book. I have met Darius and Marija. We had a coffee here in Cyprus. I have never met Mary Catherine, but who knows? I may go to Ireland and sleep on her sofa. We haven't addressed that situation yet, but I want to talk a little bit with Darius and Marija about how did you end up in Cyprus?
Actually, they had sort of the wish to spend some time in Mediterranean area. So we initially thought about Greece, Crete, and actually Marija started even to learn Greek. And so she finished several levels, so she speaks actually Greek. I can speak a little, and so I found this language and culture, Greek culture, very interesting. So Cyprus was not in our plans, but how usually happens, you try to go to one place and finally you see that the opportunity opens in a completely different place. So that was Cyprus. And one of our good friends, she just acquired a house in a small town in Limassol area in Cyprus. It's called Arsos village. And it's a old and known village and has glorious history. In its past, used to be one of the biggest wine producers in beginning of 20th century. So we came to this village several times, and we said, "Wow, it's something what we really like, we feel." And we acquired a small house there, renovated it, and now we have a reason to go to Cyprus, and it also opens us opportunities to meet people, to think about something creative, and that's in short, I think.
I was actually at the party last night with your friend Zola.
Zola, fantastic, yeah.
Now,
Zola she was someone whom we met.
One of the first people.
One of our first people whom we met, and we stayed in her fantastic hotel at Sorama in Arsos.
And Mary Catherine was with us.
Yeah, by the way.
Oh, now that was going to be my next question. Has Mary Catherine been to Cyprus?
Yes, I was invited. I was invited by Darius and Marija, and actually, it wasn't a tourist visit. We worked hard.
You wrote.
We wrote, and we edited, and we're determined to keep going with the progress of the book, because if you stop, the momentum stops.
Tell me, in how many places did you meet up to write? So Cyprus was one.
Well, I went to Luxembourg many times because Marija and Darius were living in Luxembourg, and it was easier for one person to get leave from their ministry, from their work, than two people. So they went to work during the day sometimes, and I worked at the kitchen table. And then they came home and they said, okay, now we're going to have dinner and then start working again. So we were very disciplined. And Elizabeth, we didn't work through English. So this podcast is a big change for us.
I know, because you speak French together. I read that somewhere. Or just before I came on, I heard you speak together and you were speaking French. Now, this is a completely crazy situation, because Darius and Marija's mother tongue is Lithuanian. You are English speaking. You wrote a book in English together, but you speak French together. What on earth?
Because this is our language. This is the language of our friendship. And Marija said once, quite rightly, if you change the language, and you would know this very well, Elizabeth, you have the impression that you're speaking to a completely different person. So we couldn't do it. We tried for about 5 minutes and it didn't work.
I so agree with you. I have known my husband for 40 years. My Greek is very good. I used to work as a translator, and I cannot speak to my husband in Greek because we met speaking English and it just doesn't work. I totally understand what you're talking about, but it must have been quite difficult to write the book, though.
It wasn't easy, and the editing of the book was very difficult, because the creative ideas that Marija and Darius had were wonderful. To get them into literary classical English was a big challenge.
But I paid attention to something that Marija said before. She said, if you believe it's possible, it's possible. And if you believe it's impossible, then it's not possible. And that is life. That is so true.
And you know this story of the mathematician who was lecturing to a class, and he had the usual homework on one board, and he had two impossible problems on the other. And a student came in late. He copied down all 12 problems, and he came in the next day and he said, I can't solve the 12th. I've only solved 11. And he said, you've just solved an impossible problem because you didn't know it wasn't possible. So she's right. We just said we're going to do this. A lot of people told us it was impossible, but no, everything you set your mind to, it can be done if you have enough determination. And she said once, or maybe it was Darius, in an interview, that the three of us became more than the sum of parts. We created something that none of us could have created alone.
Wow, that is very beautiful. Now, is there going to be a next one? Darius, I think you are the initiator, so you.
Yeah, we have some ideas, and they are thinking about that, because you need to have some critical mass of ideas and of your vision, and then that's an important thing. And then it kicks off. It goes quite fast afterwards.
Okay. Now, my podcast is called Most Memorable Journeys. So let's talk a little bit about the journey. I already know quite a lot about your life journey, but especially you, Darius and Marija, you come from a country it wasn't so easy to travel when you were young. When did you start traveling? When did the world open up to you? Marija, you tell me.
The real openness of the world started when Lithuania regained independence. because before the borders were closed. And even, let's say, I had relatives in Poland, but it was very difficult even to get to Poland to visit my close relative, my
So
aunt.
1991.
Yes. So it was in 1991, 92, when the road opened. And I remember I started to work in the Ministry of Justice in the International Law Division. And I was proposed this position because I knew English at that time already, and it was not so many people who could professionally just to speak and English. And I was sent my first foreign country, it was France. And I went there to Strasbourg, and it was my first maybe foreign West country, because earlier I was in Germany. And so in Germany and in Poland, of course, we had a very big country, Soviet Union. We could travel through this country because now there are a lot of republics who are separated. There are Ukraine, there are Latvia, Estonia. So we went there many times, but not to the west, not to the west. The west side of the world was closed to us. So it was the moment after this independence, and especially when Lithuania joined European Union, we received a lot of opportunities to travel.
Everything became a lot easier.
Yes.
And I can imagine, because I'm from Switzerland, which is a neutral country with a good passport. So I have never had to think in my life, can I go somewhere or can I not go? But in your situation, although you didn't really, you didn't really have much choice. So when you don't really have any choice, or is that so? Am I right, Darius? Did you have the wish to travel before you could?
I suppose yes, but I can't really remember. I don't think that was the most driving force of my life.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have a colleague, Lithuanian, who have visited, I don't know, nearly 200 countries in the world, and his wishes to visit all of them. He spent 2 years traveling, but it was not something that was very important. Of course, I was curious, and absolutely, and but the more interesting for me, perhaps, was culture, cities, history, and of course the physics, and to see large centers like CERN, for example, in Geneva, and a lot of renowned centers in France, UK, Germany. So I was more, let's say, drawn by visiting something with a purpose, not just wandering. Although in my free time, I used to work, then I was in Luxembourg, actually, was traveling a lot. We lived about 17 years in Luxembourg. I was traveling maybe 3 years from that time. I was not home. So in my free time, I like just to go and without any purpose. But I wanted always to have sort of task and to go and to visit a place with a task.
Amazing. How about you, Mary Catherine? Are you a traveler?
The first place I ever traveled to, I had a scholarship to live in Israel for the summer. I was 22, and that was my first big adventure. So after that, I just never stopped. And my parents, when I came back and put my suitcase down, I would sit down at the dinner table and they would say, "Where's the next place?" So, yeah,
fantastic. So you've been to many, many places. Have you visited Darius and Marija in Lithuania?
Yes, I have.
Of course you have.
Beautiful country. Beautiful, beautiful country.
So just the question which was unanswered, where we wrote this book. So we wrote in Vilnius, in some other places in Lithuania, in Cyprus, in Dublin, in Luxembourg, perhaps in Brussels, in Paris. It's difficult to, so if you would asked to write the places where this book has been edited, written, or worked with. So it will be a big list of
Yes,
all
we need
different
to
places.
remember really.
I think this is fascinating. I mean, but somehow though, this represents the European Union in a way.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. It wouldn't have happened without the union, because the union made it much easier to move around and to meet each other and to work together. That we were at the ENA, Maria and I. That was the École Nationale d'Administration. So that was the whole idea, to exchange ideas and come together. That's what Europe wants, and Europe wants it in the field, the domain of culture also, and literature. It's important.
Yeah, I agree. And I also believe not only within the European Union, but within the world, and you all have all traveled far, that at the end of the day, we are all the same. We're all the same. We all want the same thing. We want to be safe. We want to be happy, and we want to enjoy life. And I think if there wasn't any politics or if there wasn't any religion, it would be possible. But that's a completely different story. We're not a political podcast, and we don't go there. But do you agree with me that we are all the same in a way, Mary Catherine?
Just as you were saying that, I was thinking from a human rights point of view. A human rights lawyer would say, well, no, we're not exactly all the same. Every human being wants to be loved, wants to be safe, as you say, wants to be happy, but our roads to getting there and our cultural and political differences are what cause the conflict in life, and that's our job. We have to find a way forward for human dignity in negotiating these differences. That's our job.
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, I totally agree with you that we are where we come from, especially you, Mary Catherine, and myself, and of course you and Darius and Marija as well now. But we have it, we have all the opportunities. It's up to us to use them. You got yours a little bit later, but there are people who do not have these opportunities. And you know that very well as a human rights lawyer. And I think the world can be very unfair in this respect.
But Tolstoy said, and I never forgot reading it, that you don't think about the bigger questions in life. You don't think, well, I can't change the world, I can't make it fair for everyone. You just try your best to add your light to the sum of light. And every little effort will make a difference. And we've had people in relation to this book that have said, we are on a new path now in our life, because this book made us think of things that we hadn't thought of before.
Wow, that thing with the light, I love that. Because I also believe, another thing that I believe is that your light won't shine any brighter if you blow out somebody else's.
That's right.
And I mean,
because I see that just what we were talking about, it gave some thoughts. Actually, the difference. We came from Eastern Europe, being part of Soviet Union in the past, and Mary Catherine from Ireland, United States, so as well, and we were very interesting to each other to explore. This is why this project had also some motivation. We wanted to learn not only what's your name, what you have graduated, but also how you are made. What is your history? What is your story? And as you said, Elizabeth, that essentially we are very similar, all people. They want happiness, they want happiness and good health for the people, family, and essentially, so we are all very similar, but we have lived different stories. And while we were writing this book, we found many, many things which are alike in Ireland, in Lithuania. For example, folklore, the stories, and ancient stories of in folklore. So we were really found many discoveries, and so sometimes it's very interesting when you meet someone and you want to learn him, and you want to learn some things. You want to see differences, similarities. Unless you do not start politics, so that could divide you very, very soon.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. Now, before I let you go, while you were talking, and I was thinking, I don't know who wants to answer this question, but I think your book could also turn into workshops. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about taking this further and actually organizing something with the content of this book? Who wants to reply to that?
No doubt, because our vision, first of all, okay, if I can tell in a nutshell, is that you call this book as a self-help. Indeed, it is sort of, and what Mary Catherine said, that it could be read on different levels. So our vision is that a union of two people, it has some magic elements, you can say it, but it has, me as a physicist, I would use the word potential, a great potential, resources, because when you decide to live together, to have lives together, so you have confidence in each other, and that helps you for your growth, your personal growth, and that was initial idea which had driven us. And this is why we started to think, okay, what are the obstacles? What doesn't allow you to do this? Because you have a closest person in the world next to you. He can tell you the truth. He can tell you the way he sees, and like a mirror. And they started to think, what things are blocking you from that? And this is how our book is built, actually. So it could become a sort of a workbook or a workshop or someone who can really help to people who want to be happy, but they do not know how.
Amazing. Now, I think that from what I understand, this is not the end. This is not just a book. There is going to be more in whatever form or whatever we can imagine. But this is the end of this podcast. Any last words, Mary Catherine?
I want to thank you so much, Elizabeth, for this privilege of speaking to you. And it's been a pleasure.
Same here. And so I'm looking forward. I am sure that you will visit Darius and Marija again in Cyprus. And I am looking forward to getting together with all of you one day here in Limassol. So thank you so much for being on Most Memorable Journeys today, Mary Catherine, Marija, and Darius.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.